Okay. Despite the delays, welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave
and Mackie.
We're on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on, you guessed it, www.revolution.radio, where it's more than just radio, so jump into the chat room if you can.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. So, yeah, that's working. That's live. So this is show number 350.
50 and 300.
It loses the ring, doesn't it, when it's not a third number? It's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen from anywhere, or you can listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. By the way, Grace, I'm still waiting for that desktop radio. If you missed Solaris' show, she had Madeline and Rudy on, and they were talking about life in the hologram. That's something that's close to both Mickey and myself. And
right next to us, right here.
and in fact, it's close to everybody. In fact, we're all in it. So good luck with that. It only cost $5.95 a month to access the archives at freedomslips.com. So you can check out Solaris' shows or our shows, or in fact, all of the host shows on Revolution Radio. And by contributing in that way, you're getting something back for your money, but you're also contributing, that was the key word here, that's the segue, to the station's success. So please do that and support the show, the station, not just our show. We don't get the money for it. Becky and I both acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where I live. It's the Dark and Young people.
And it's the Daruk for me, of course, the Daruk people.
Absolutely is. And we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Let us remember that beneath our houses, concrete, roads, and buildings are lands which have had stories passed down for 240,000 generations. That's the way I say it at RSL clubs when they're telling you you're going to win $2,000 or something.
2,000, mate. Anya.
$2,000. It's quite nasally. It's very, very nasally, isn't it?
It's super nasally.
All right. So, look, apologies for jumping in so late into the station, but our desktop Skype would not at all connect to the station.
So I'm on an Apple machine, so my Skype didn't work. It tells me the connection is too weak, or the signal is too weak, and Dave on a I guess a Windows machine had the same issue. Now Dave is about 200 kilometers north of me, right? And we have the same issue. I couldn't even dial Dave. I got
I saw
connection.
It showed,
weird, man.
I got the same fault, and it showed to me that I had a missed call from you, though it never rang.
Same.
It just popped up as a missed call. Yeah.
Same. I got a missed call from you. What? It's just I don't know. It's just weirdness, right?
So how do we solve this technological blunder from Microsoft? Or I'm presuming one of the servers in between us, maybe one of the Australian Skype servers or something. I don't know, because I don't understand how we can work, because I've used my mobile version of Skype and it connects fine. Isn't that bizarre?
It is odd. It is 5 kinds of odd. Do you actually pay for that one? Because I'm using a free Skype version. Are you using a free Skype version on your phone?
Okay, so on my phone, yes, I'm using free Skype. Okay, I have. Well, see, I've actually got a subscription to Skype. So every month it renews. I don't get any ads or anything on my Skype, whether it's the desktop or the mobile.
So you pay?
Oh, I pay, all right.
Okay, so it's not that then, because I don't pay. I thought maybe because I'm not paying, they're trying to cut my service, but that's not it then. Okay.
No, I don't believe it is. I think it's something else. And I just try to encourage you to pay for it, right?
I checked 5 different Skype status pages online, because my internet is fine, by the way. My internet is flying. It's traveled back in time. It's going so fast, and it's all listed as normal. It's all normal. No, there haven't been any outages for 6 months. I go, yeah, okay, sure.
Except for today.
Let's say that. Yeah, mate. Look. Again, apologies. As Dave has said, we are sorry. Not of our doing, unfortunately. So not much. I mean, Dave dialed in via mobile. Brilliant. Good stuff. Good idea. That was my next go-to. But this is just astounding. I mean, Skype, when it was not owned by Microsoft, well, look, was it perfect? No. But it never had these kinds of issues. I mean, the connections were bad sometimes, sure, but there was a connection. There was a connection. Right? Yeah.
Craziness. Who knew?
Craziness. Right,
Who knew that they could destroy their own product like that? Well, look, I've got something which is maybe a segue for Microsoft. How does this sound? Did you know that inside Windows, up until they redid it, up until they rebuilt Windows from scratch with Windows 10, it once had special code to protect it from stray gamma rays. Did you know?
What was it? Say it again slowly.
Okay, so Windows had code written into it to protect it from gamma rays.
Okay, so that actually doesn't make any sense at all.
I will so explain it.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So look, I don't think anyone, not even a programmer working on Windows, could list all the crazy workarounds and hacks that exist in the operating system's code base, right? Because it's been built for so long and everyone's done work in it. So look, that said, from time to time we do find out about one or two. Take the incredible, though temporary, patch that would protect the CPU cache from stray gamma rays. I mean, it does sound conspiratorial, but I mean, that's the shiny side out, right? Microsoft's Ray Chen relayed the anecdote last week. Apparently, it was possible for the processor cache to become corrupted when coming out of standby, thanks to flipped bits from gamma rays. The fix was to invalidate the cache using a command called INVD. That's it. Although the code has since been disabled, Raymond says the comment for it is still there. So they've actually still left it in there. They can activate it if they need to. The funny part is it wasn't even Microsoft that wanted the change, as the comment explains. The story goes on. I have to tell you, it was the processor manufacturer that asked for it. So Intel asked for this.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, interesting. So it doesn't protect it or against gamma rays, but what it does, it rectifies the error that are caused by gamma rays. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So
because I don't know, I can't see how a piece of software could, generate a force field around the processor that then deflects all gamma rays. Because I'd like to see.
Well, hey, Mackie, my phone. I've got this new app to stop you getting sunburn. As long as you're holding your phone,
inside, but you have to hold it inside the house. Okay, are you inside the house? Yes. Hold me for 6 hours. You will not get sunburn. Sweet.
Yes. Oh, I like those odds.
Life hacks, man. That's what we need. More life hacks. That's the thing, right?
Life hacks.
Life hacks. How not to be an idiot. That'll help you. Okay. Completely. That's too late. Too late. That ship has sailed.
You've said that to me before. So, Mackie, I was going to say, I was looking at the people who on YouTube have made the most money ever. Yeah. So there's a list produced every year.
But then porn. Some kind of porn. Come on.
No, it's unboxing Disney gifts, like Disney toys.
I watched that once, and
that's
they do others like
it is.
Yeah, Peppa Pig too, and they open up Kinder Surprise eggs and shit like. Pardon my French.
That's
insane. It's insane. What?
Because the person who earned the most earned $60 million US dollars for unboxing stuff on you, and the person watching it doesn't even get the gift.
That's insane. So what do you do for a living? I've got a huge following. I'm a gazillionaire. I unpack toys, but I do it in such a way that it bamboozles and frazzles your mind, and you cannot but watch in awe and amazement. It's insane, Dave. That can't be right. That's fake news. I'm calling it fake news. Come on.
Fake news. Yeah, no, thanks. All right. So, I mean, it is honestly one of those things, because the unboxing of something is such a personal experience, right? And I know that manufacturers, right? Manufacturers go to great lengths with the marketing team to be able to create an experience of opening something. Now, if you're an iOS platform mobile user, right, an iPhone person, you will have experienced it, because you open the box and the vacuum caused by you lifting the lid and the bottom part sliding out, and that silky satin feel of the box and each piece, and you bring it out and you've got that little clip, there's the little folds, the little semicircle. That was all engineered to impress you and impress upon your psyche that this is a good experience. That's not by accident. They didn't choose the cheapest recyclable, this, that, whatever, who cares, why you're still talking to me, marketing person, right? They didn't do that. They intentionally, they've created an experience, and that experience cost them millions of dollars in research to get that right. And that's the personal connection you have with an unboxing. Watching a video of someone doing that has none of that. I think where the position that I'm coming from on this is, damn you, unboxer, for thinking of it first and being terribly successful. I went, wave your arm harder, boy.
Damn your eyes and onions. I curse you. I curse and pain. I'm shocked and horrified. Yes.
Oh, that was almost Professor Frink. Laven. Yeah, so look, it's jealousy, I think, that green monster in me that says, damn you for being successful in an unboxing. It's like, I don't know, trimming wheatgrass video. I'm just making this up. How on earth can it be satisfying to watch? But, who thought that about funny cat videos? I mean, that's the internet now, right? So
funny cat videos. Look, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. People are idiots. Okay, it's just, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, you can hate right on me. Not people listening to this. Generally,
I'll tell you, that's going to bite you. That clip, I love that.
No, it's true though. It's true. People listening to this radio station are not people that will watch somebody unbox a toy. I hope.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. Speaking of hope, I was in the office the other day. No, it's a funny thing. I was in the office the other day and I was going on about something, and from across the room, someone shouts at me, "You know what the problem is, Mackie? We gave you hope." And I go, oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did give me hope. That's right.
Does that actually retract that by saying that? Yeah,
I know. Does it? I don't know. I mean, it's like saying Santa doesn't exist. I mean, I think the jury's out on that one. But
wait, you're telling us what now?
No. People say that. I completely am on board with Santa being around. In fact, tell you what, if this is a multiverse, or if this is an infinite single universe, either scenario, it's inevitable that Santa exists. He must exist, because everything and anything and nothing at the same time will exist either in an infinite universe or in an infinite multiverse. So there. Go and put that in your pipe and smoke it. That's the implication. Yes.
Well, you should know, because in one of those universes, you are Santa.
Oh, don't you know?
There you go, right?
I'm such a good Santa too. I'm jolly, and I go ho ho ho, and I pay my elves award wages, my friend. Yeah, living wage. A living wage, my friend. That's what and union days off. That's what they're getting.
But they've got to work a holiday. So
well, that's true.
Actually, no. The boss works the holiday.
That's true.
That's
make
interesting.
make 150,000 toys by this afternoon. Off you go. What? Well, you can't do that. What? But no, look, seriously, no, it's incredible. I'm Dave. I'm astounded. I really am. It is a crazy world we live in, and it's getting crazy every day. But everybody, there's one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, to let you know. It's a bite of a reality sandwich. You know, Dave, we're gonna have a section now. We're gonna have a little segment. I'm gonna call it reality sandwich, and we're gonna take a bite of it, and we're gonna have a section like that every week. So
Awesome.
this guy was killed in the Saudi embassy in Turkey. I think it was in.
Oh yes,
Istanbul.
of course.
I think it was Istanbul. If it was Istanbul, it would have been a consulate, but that's neither here nor there. So he was killed on Turkish soil, clearly, and apparently there's evidence that the crown prince may or may not have known about it, and may or may not have ordered the killing. In fact, and everybody's outraged that Donald Trump doesn't break the alliance or censor or ask for the arrest of the Saudi royal prince because of this. I mean, have you guys been living under a rock? I'm sorry. This is what's called realpolitik, real politics, right? It's what actually happens in the world. So there's the stuff that people say, and that's over there, and that's what they talk about in the UN. It's fun, and it's kumbaya and rainbows, and everybody eats. It's
do whatever they want.
Whatever they like. It's not real. In the real world, and I'll follow this on with something else I want you to think about because it worries me. There is such a thing as how can I put this best? Harsh realities, okay? And harsh realities are that Saudi Arabia keeps the oil price stable for the United States, provides a gigantic chunk of oil to the United States, is a massive ally in the Middle East of the United States. And one journalist who was critical of the Saudis is killed. Yeah, okay, let me see. There's 300 million Americans, there's geopolitical considerations, there's strategy, there's an alliance which has been going on for decades. Oh yeah, I can see how that's going to be. Price. Yeah, no, we will definitely, come down hard on the Saudis. Have you seen how the Bushes talk to the Saudi royals? Do me a favor, Google it or whatever you have to do. Go to a book and have a look how the Bushes, and in fact, pretty much any president or Secretary of State has dealt or interacts with the Saudi royals, the Saudi royal family.
I like rowdies. That's pretty good.
The rowdies. See how they kowtow and are deferent, and then how they are very submissive into the Saudis when it comes to talks, and very respectful. It's a thing.
Well, since I can't message you privately. Actually, I think I can.
I think
it's all good. No. I'm gonna do that.
Okay. So just to be clear, that's it's a thing, right? And then for anybody to expect that anything else would happen is complete insanity. Why would you even expect that Donald Trump, not just Donald Trump, any president? I mean, they might have had some strong words on, oh, you really shouldn't kill people. Yeah, we all know that's a bad thing, right? Yeah, it's right up there with eating glass. That's also not a good idea. Don't eat glass. So don't kill people and don't eat glass. Okay, 2 things to avoid at all costs. But that would have been it. We really have to strongly censor the Saudis and blah blah blah. Sure, knock yourself out. So that was never going anywhere, ever, not ever. So, but the one thing that worries me, Dave, and by the way, I didn't get the IM. Oh no, I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's that. I will not relay this choice.
No, we're not going to iterate what it says, except that you can only imagine all of the reasons for
all the reasons.
And look, one of those, Mickey, one of those that I have been thinking about is, if Donald Trump did do what the people and the UN and in fact the whole planet has been ordering Donald Trump to do, what would the outcome be? So imagine the oil price tripling in the US, right? If it tripled in the US, it would completely bring the US to its knees.
Yeah.
Therefore, kicking off that comments timeline. But all I'm saying is, you can't imagine. Like in Australia, our fuel is more expensive than it is in the US, and but I can only imagine that everyone in the US would be struggling. The shipping costs for everything would go sky high. Food would then, as a result, go up because of shipping. You could only imagine the detrimental effects on the US economy if that happened. So I completely understand why you wouldn't, poke the Saudis with this. Needless to say, just say, look, can you try not to do that again, right?
Yeah, just don't eat glass and don't kill people. Those are the two things in that order. No glass eating, no killing of people. Okay. But as long as you don't eat glass, everything is fine. It's just on that though. Go on.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was going to say to your point. Your point, you're losing the ally in the Middle East would also be detrimental. Could you imagine if all of those Middle Eastern countries ganged up against the US? That would be really bad too. So,
oh man, it'd be horrific. But just to your point around oil prices, right? Just now, or yesterday, I should say, there were massive protests in Paris, or France, but in Paris specifically, there was chaos around the Champs-Élysées, which is the big roundabout in.
Yeah.
The Champs-Élysées actually is the street that leads from the obelisk to the Arc de Triomphe, right? That's like a big long street. Yeah, I think it's about 2 kilometers long. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is there was unrest because of fuel prices. Yeah, fuel prices. Now there were more than 100,000 people that went to protest, and there were about 1,600 protests across France. Okay, and most went peacefully, except in the capital, where 8,000 demonstrators gathered, and they were confronted by 5,000 police who had set up metal barriers around the Champs-Élysées to stop protesters reaching key buildings, blah, 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 blah. So, and there's on fire, there's stuff on fire at the Arc de Triomphe. Look at the picture here. So let's just be, so what do you think? So this is, what would happen if the fuel price tripled? Think of the protests at that point, right? It's insane. It's insane that the diesel price has gone to, I think it's €1.50 or something now, which is a 23% increase in price. 23%.
Oh, what?
23%. And the decision to impose a further increase of 6.5 cents, right, was seen as the final straw. 6.5 cents further increase, which is like 2 or 3% on that. Seriously? So let's be clear just how important this issue actually is. So look at France right now, okay? If you happen to be near your internet or your TV or whatever news, maybe you watch CNN or whatever, have a look at what happened in Paris. It's a thing. But the one thing that worried me, Dave, and then we can move on to other things if you like. But just the one thing I wanted to, because I thought about this, right? I haven't done any research, but the thought occurred to me yesterday. As I was sitting down and contemplating for an hour. I actually sat down for an hour and I was just thinking for 1 hour. I gave myself 1 hour to just think. Donald Trump is a billionaire. Tick. Vladimir Putin is also a billionaire. Tick.
Ah.
The leader of China, is it Lin or Lu? I forget that. I'm sorry. This is just my bad. I should have researched this better. But the current leader of China is also a billionaire.
I smell oligarchy. That's what I smell.
So, think about
the elites are ruling the underworld, the underclass.
Well, what is happening here? Are we looking at a staged event in our near future? Because the thing is this: what would happen? What would happen if there was a war?
Agenda 21. Agenda 21.
Well, but that's what I'm saying to you, right? That's what I'm saying. So this is the funny thing about China. China has 104 billionaires. 104 billionaires that are leading the country. while Xi Jinping, that's his name, Xi Jinping,
That's right. Yep.
is promising to lift millions out of poverty, right? But he's not poor either. Okay, so now think about that, right? So this is insane. This is crazy. 2% of the 5,000 member strong Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, the CPPCC, the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, 2%, right? 2% of the 5,000 members have a net worth of $624 billion. So these are people that are sitting in the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference.
Wow.
Okay? So look, you have to put this all in perspective. So why is this important? Well, the thing is this: there are a whole bunch of clearly billionaires in charge of the world right now, right? And I don't think every billionaire has the same insight as the next billionaire. So there's power and there's money, but power and money, when they go hand in hand, there's nothing you can do about it. And everything that we're seeing, it seems like we're being steered toward conflict, right? We're being steered toward conflict. Maybe not as fast as some would want, but it looks definitely like there is something in the works. We now heard on the news that China and Russia are both, or have both, caught up to America technologically, from a technology point of view, in the military arena. The Americans no longer have the leading edge in military technology. They said that recently on several occasions, actually. So there's the what would they say, the edge or the gap is rapidly eroding. It's interesting. Are we being prompted? And the funny thing is this: the American military budget is almost $1 trillion, not quite, just shy of $1 trillion. $1 trillion. That's 1,000 billion dollars.
The total is of all of the other countries in the world don't equal that figure.
No, not even close. Not even close. So, right? So what does it mean? Oh, we want to spend more on military. How much more could you spend? How much more could there soon will be not enough money in the world to spend on the military budget of the United States.
To only spend money on the military budget. Oh, that's being done. That's North Korea, right?
We used to buy corn. Corn is for weaklings and pinkos. We don't need to eat. We just have to beat the commies. Yeah, okay. Sure, you go ahead and do that. But look, so think about that. So the people in charge of the world, more or less, the three most powerful countries, arguably, are billionaires. Now, do you think there are any common interests? I want to say yes. Because
money,
right? So I look at myself, right? I'm a guy, and I like some things, and you tend to gravitate toward people that are like you or have similar interests. So Dave and I are friends because we have similar interests, apart from this radio show, right? But we help each other out. We're buddies, and that's a good thing. But we have a lot of things in common. We're not the same, of course, but we have a lot of things in common. So that's what happens when people, have a lot in common. They hang out, they form clubs or something. It could happen. And similarly, if you like racing cars, you probably hang out with people that like racing cars, right? Or maybe you really like watching soccer, so you probably hang out with people that like your soccer team. So if I'm a billionaire, right? So I've got certain interests. I've got the biggest boat on the planet. I've got the biggest house. Who do I hang out with, right? With the other guy who's got the second biggest boat, or maybe it's just slightly bigger than mine, so which means I have to buy another one, right? So these are my buddies then, right? If I'm a billionaire, I can't hang out with Bob, who is a factory worker. That just wouldn't work. Hey, Bob, come over to my gigantic mansion. Right, which costs more than your children will make it in 1,000 generations. But just come over.
The driveway takes 45 minutes. If you think you're lost, you're not there yet.
Yeah, we'll throw some condor eggs on the barbecue, and and we'll eat the last Komodo dragon. I'll just have it flown this morning fresh. because that's the thing that people do, right? So you got to ask yourself, right? So clearly, so people with a common interest, they gravitate. They are billionaires clubs. We know they are, right? And you know, if you get together, you hang out at the same billionaire resorts, and you go to the same billionaire parties, right? And you know, it's just a thing. So you get to talk, and you say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm okay. You know what's going on? It's so many useless eaters. Look at all the useless eaters around here. I mean, seriously, they're just stinking up the place. You know, how much better would it be if the world was just full of billionaires?" And then your buddy says, "Oh, well, yeah, that's a good idea. But, you know, if they're only billionaires, who's going to do the work?" Okay, oh, you're right. We should leave some of the smelly people to do the work. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
How many do you reckon we should leave?
500 million. That's
500 million sounds good. So we'll just to let everyone know what we're going to do. We're going to build like a monument thing out of stone. Oh, stone's a good idea.
I like
where
stone.
We can put it? Yeah, stone is good. Where are we going to put it? Oh, you know, I forget where it is. And we're going to have it in every language, just in case the only people left out of the 500 million are one of those languages. So we're going to write it in every language, so they get the picture.
Yeah, it is.
The Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah,
people.
Georgia. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, look, that's what I was going to say. But this is the thing, though, right? And there we are, and there it is. And you have to ask yourself, was the system meant to be this way? Well, the answer is no, it wasn't meant to be this way. None of the systems were meant to be this way. In fact, the founders of the respective systems would be turning over in their graves, I would think, if they knew just what had happened. And if you look around at the world, right, there is really no difference anymore between political systems. The one country, you know, we've said this before, that has done the best recently is China, economically speaking. They survived the economic crisis just fine, and they're meant to be a communist country, you know, and everybody else hasn't done so well. But fundamentally, there aren't really very many differences anymore between any of the countries. We're living in a 1984 like a society where everything is, well, sort of the same, right? Except for one place, Dave. There's one place that's completely different. Yeah, thank you for asking. It is, in fact, a few islands in the Andaman Sea. So you go, what the hell's the Andaman Sea, Mackie? That's crazy talk. Well, it's sort of part of the Indian Ocean, the Andaman Sea. And there are these islands, right? And there's a whole bunch of people, well, not a whole bunch, it's about 50 people of this one tribe. And I think
they killed the dude.
They killed the dude. I think an
evangelistic.
There you go.
An evangelistic. Can I read this one? So
yes.
It's an evangelistic a Christian who decided that he was going to, go against all the rules and meet with these people and instruct them about the good ways of the Lord. He was. Yeah, that's okay. I'm wording it intentionally, right? So he was armed only with his Bible and all of his good intentions. And a very young boy of this tribe, as he was making his way on shore, pierced the Bible with an arrow. And then he went down. And there was it didn't end well. Let's put it that way. And look, there's some people you shouldn't try to convert. Number one, people with weapons pointed at you. That's probably a good start. It's no different than the fellow who was convinced that God would not allow the snake to bite him, the rattlesnake, and it killed him recently. There's an amount of extremism where people are brainwashed, I suppose, or brainwash themselves into believing that either they're invincible or God's going to help them. You know, if God's everywhere, he's got a lot to do.
Busy fella.
He would have to be very busy. And looking after you and your stupid intentions is probably not where he's going to be. Right? He's got better things to do. So maybe stupidity is where he cuts the line, right? He's drawn the line in the sand. He has very little time for stupid people.
I gave you the brain for thinking, no? For thinking, not dancing. Thinking.
Not that. Not playing with rattlesnake. Oh, it's bitten you. Oh, good on you. You know.
Eat some glass. Go on, eat some glass. Why don't you?
That's next on your list, right? That'll make the pain of the snake bite go away, I'll tell you.
Oh, it will.
Yeah.
I can't feel my legs anymore. That's okay.
My legs. So look, I wanted to. There was a couple of quick science stories here. We've only got a couple of minutes, and the first one is the first plane ever with no moving parts. And we've all seen that aluminium foil and wire high voltage ion wind. Looks like anti-gravity, but it's not. It's an ion
It's
wind.
not anti-gravity.
No.
It's not anti-gravity.
All right. And so they've actually upscaled this now to be a super high voltage plane using the same wind, and it generates its own lift.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. But it's horizontal, the wind force, and the wings are like a large glider. But since there's no moving parts, you only need electricity to go forward. I think that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool little thing that they've just done. The other one is, remember the Dyson sphere, Mekki?
I remember many Dyson spheres, but I can't talk about
the what? All right, I know they're all classified. When the flesh-eating. Oh, hang on, classified.
Oh man,
classified. Yeah. I love that sketch from Onion. Okay, so there's another Dyson sphere sun that's been found out there in the universe.
Is that right?
Suspected
Okay.
Dyson sphere. I've pasted some links in for you, Mekki, so you can have a look.
Sounds good.
Since we've only got a couple of minutes, I don't want to delve too deeply into it. And the last one that I think we'll get more discussion from is, you know how as a segue from the Russians and China, their power now as a power base is increasing. So it's not just the US and England, which was pretty poor. England's one, and especially Australia. It's another exponential step down. Well, Russia has now said that they're going to verify that the US moon landings occurred. So
Because there won't be any collusion. There will be no collusion. What? What are you talking about? You're talking crazy now.
Do you know what it sounds like? They put their hand out for some money, right, from the US.
You better shut up now and give me some cash.
Yeah, this is hush money, right?
There you go.
Where their answer is just simply going to be, we found proof. We were just being silly. It says, head of the Russian Roscosmos Space Agency has said that a proposed Russian mission to the moon will be tasked with the verification that the American moon landings were real, though he appeared to be making a joke. We have set this objective to fly and verify whether they've been there or not. Remember, no one went back. The Russians didn't go back again afterwards. So, look, I think that should put everything to bed, unless they've got that ready, set, and faked, right? Who knows? And honestly, who knows? In Australia, we had some really bad fires. Mekki, there was some fires, just a few k's from my house this week.
Yeah.
Honestly, just a few kilometres, and the smoke trail was coming directly towards our house. And Belinda, my partner, she messaged me and told me, I had a look at this. We have a couple of apps here in Australia, which you probably should get onto in the US, and that allows you to be notified within a certain radius of where you live or where you are, both, and or if there's a fire going towards you. So that's a great app to get. So here it's called Fires Near Me. And look, it was far enough away, and I could see the wind was going to change, and it was going to be okay, and it was when I got home. But geez, the whole night was like this inhalation of smoke. It was terrible. And that just highlights the risk that we live in, where we are. I feel for all the people in California. But right now, our summer season's just about to kick off, and we're looking at a really bad fire season.
It's bad. It is bad.
Yeah. But I mean, we're used to it, right? It's just a thing. It wasn't a thing, it became a thing, and now it's a thing. Mm-hmm. So it's no different to, this wild weather. It's just normal weather. A couple of little things occur, you think it doesn't matter, and then so those things occur, and they're getting more and more, become more often. Now it's the new normal.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome back to Shiny Side Out with Dave and Meki on freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. So push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for only $5 per month. I'd like to say hello to all of the new listeners we have today. We're glad you're on board. We hope to make this transition from the mainstream media or the lamestream media to us and this station an easy one. And if you subscribe to the station's archives, you can get access to our backlog of shows, or if you want to go further back, there's some available on. Hang on, you still got me? You're still available. Yeah, cool.
Coming in and out, my friend. You're coming in and out.
Yeah, okay. All right. It's going to be one of those days. All right. Anyway, we're halfway through show 350, and we're talking about
300. Crazy.
50 and 300. And we're still talking about, this is part 5, we're talking about death, resurrection, and Christmas.
We're actually up to Christmas, so we're going to talk about Christmas today. I wanted to let everybody know, though, for next week, whenever we have time, there are 2 stories I'd like to share with you, everybody. One is about the Denisovans, and the other is about a massive underground city. You can do some of your own research if you like. It's in Turkey, right? But this is an underground city built thousands of years ago that goes 18 stories underground, Dave. 18 stories underground, and it's connected to 200 other sites by miles of tunnels. And at its height, it held 20,000. It could actually house 20,000 people for a significant length of time. 18 stories.
Including cattle and livestock.
Yeah. There are not too many people these days, or I should say governments or organizations that go 18 stories underground. 18 stories underground. That's a sizable building if you look at it, but digging that deep, that's a whole different proposition. A whole different proposition. Forget everything else. Just think of the air supply issues, right? That's just say it. Anyway. And it's called Derinkuyu. Derinkuyu in Turkey is the city. But yeah, we are talking about Christmas, and in a timely fashion, I guess. We are just 1 month away from Christmas. What does it mean? What does Christmas mean? Christmas. In German, it's called Weihnachten, which means sacred or holy night. Christmas, or is of course a reference to Christ and the Christ Mass, a Mass for Christ, right? And maybe celebrating his birthday. So there's a whole bunch of different names around what we are calling Christmas. Buon Natale, like in I guess Italian and Spanish, it's really sort of a happy or happy birthday kind of. That's what it says, or happy birth. The birth of Christ, of course, being referred to here. Buon Natale, or happy birth, happy Christ birth, if you will. Now, so, okay, we'll see how that goes. So it's interesting, Christmas. It's a fascinating holiday, and I'll tell you why. Because it goes way back, well before the age of Jesus Christ, 2,000 years ago. It's much older, because on around the 22nd to 23rd, 24th, and so forth. What we are celebrating is, in fact, the winter solstice. The winter solstice, the shortest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. Not in Australia, no, not at all. It's not. It is in the northern hemisphere, north of the equator, if you will, the shortest day of the year, followed by a stationary sun, which then, after 3 days remaining at that point, rises again in the sky relative to the horizon, of course, relative to the Earth's horizon. The sun then rises higher into the sky from a northern hemisphere point of view. In my opinion, that is connected to the Easter myth as well, right? Which again predates the Christian tradition by thousands and quite conceivably tens of thousands of years, same as Christmas. Now, when you gather around the Christmas tree or stuff goodies into a stocking, you're taking part in traditions that stretch back thousands, and I maintain tens of thousands of years, long before Christianity ever entered into the mix. Hate mail, pagan or non-Christian traditions show up in this beloved winter holiday, a consequence of early church leaders melding Jesus' nativity, his birth story, celebration with pre-existing midwinter festivals. Since then, Christmas traditions have warped over time, arriving at the current state a little more than a century ago. In fact, some of the traditions, and especially images that we now consider traditional, are less or younger than that, less than 50 years old in some instances. Right? Certainly, the image of Santa himself, interestingly enough, is not that old. Early Christians, so it goes, had a soft spot for pagans. It's a mistake to say that our modern Christmas traditions come directly from Christian paganism, says Ronald Hutton, a historian at Bristol University in the United Kingdom. However, he said, you'd be equally wrong to believe that that Christmas is a modern phenomenon. As Christians spread their religion into Europe in the first centuries AD, in the first, second, and third century mostly, they ran into people living by a variety of local and regional religious creeds. Christian missionaries lumped all of these people together under the umbrella term pagan, says Philip Shaw, who researches early Germanic languages and Old English at Leicester University in the UK. The term is related to the Latin word meaning field, Shaw told Life Science. The lingual link makes sense, he said, because early European Christianity was an urban phenomenon, while paganism persisted longer in rustic or rural areas. So pagan, the word pagan is related to the Latin word meaning field. A field, like plow a field, plant some potatoes, have a good feast. So that was the difference here, right? And you have to understand that Christianity was an urban phenomenon because it had been made state religion by the Romans. Yeah, so it started, as we know, or Catholicism at least, in Rome. Yeah, then you've got the Orthodox Christians, and that started in Constantinople, what is now Istanbul. So two mainstreams for Christianity: Eastern Rome and Western world. And then later there were more schisms, mostly in the Catholic world. Not too many schisms. I mean, there were some, not too many schisms in the Eastern Church, but a lot of schisms or separations and divisions in the what is now called Catholic Church. But of course, back then it wasn't a Catholic Church; it was just the Christian or the Roman Church, if you will, right? The Roman Christians. Now, early Christians did want to convert the pagans, right? This is again people plowing the field. Shaw tells us, but they were also fascinated by their traditions. Well, I think they may not have been fascinated by the traditions because they would have had similar traditions, and not only that, it makes it a lot easier to find common ground if you've got common holidays and common dates you can celebrate. So whether they were fascinated with their traditions or not is irrelevant. They certainly used them. Christians of that period are quite interested in paganism, he said. It's obviously something they think is a bad thing, but it's also something they think is worth remembering. It's what their ancestors did. So I'm sorry, but that argument makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense to me, but that's fine. It's what Mr. Shaw believes. Perhaps that's why pagan traditions remain even as Christianity took hold. The Christmas tree is a 17th century German invention. University of Bristol's Hutton told Life Science. But it clearly derives from the pagan practice of bringing greenery indoors to decorate in midwinter. The modern Santa Claus is a direct descendant of England's Father Christmas, who was not originally a gift giver. However, Father Christmas and his other European variations are modern incarnations of old pagan ideas about spirits who traveled the sky in midwinter, Hutton said. Dave? Dave? Hello? Am I still on the air? Hello. In the chat, if you can hear me, just type that you can still hear me. I'll keep going, guys. We all want that warm Christmas glow. But why this fixation on partying in midwinter anyway? According to historians, it's a natural time for a feast. In an agricultural society, the harvest work is done for the year, and there's nothing left to be done in the fields, which is true. I mean, if you haven't got your stuff in some kind of barn or stored away, you are in trouble for the winter, right? Time when you have some time to devote to your religious life. Hello, Dave?
Yeah, said Shaw, but also it's a period when, frankly, everyone needs cheering up. The dark days that accumulate with the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice, could be lightened with feasts and decorations, Hutton said. And here's a quote. If you happen to live in a region in which midwinter brings striking darkness and cold and hunger, then the urge to have a celebration at that very heart of it to avoid going mad or falling into a deep depression is very, very strong, he said. Stefan Nessenbaum, author of the Pulitzer Prize finalist, The Battle for Christmas, this was from 1997, agreed with this. And by saying, even now when solstice means not all that much, because you can get rid of the darkness with the flick of an electric switch, a light switch. Even now, it's a very powerful season, he told Live Science. Mackie, number 3, the church was slow to embrace Christmas.
Indeed it was. In fact, certain sections of Christianity today are still not celebrating Christmas. Despite the spread of Christianity, midwinter festivals did not become Christmas for hundreds of years. Okay, the Bible gives no reference to when Jesus was born. Let me say this again. The Bible gives no reference to when Jesus was born, which wasn't a problem for early Christians, Nissenbaum said. It never occurred to them that they needed to celebrate his birthday, he said. Sensible. With no biblical directive to do so, and no mention in the Gospels of the correct date, it wasn't until the 4th century that church leaders in Rome embraced the holiday. At this time, Nissenbaum said, many people had turned to believe the church found heretical. Heresy, burn the heretics. That Jesus had never existed as a man, but as a sort of spiritual entity. I need to dwell on this for a second. The Gnostics believed that we, made of gross matter, could never have been the same as Jesus incarnate God, because God, by the very definition, cannot be made of gross matter as we are. Therefore, Jesus, when he came to earth, or was born into the earth, if you will, was never made of the same matter as us. He was a spiritual manifestation. He was made of subtle matter, right? More esoteric, I guess, in substance than us, right? Which, of course, meant that he couldn't die at the cross. There's the problem. and hence the heresy. Okay? So the big thing that really killed off the Cathars, and I guess to some extent the Knights Templar and the Bogomils and the Manichaeans, the Paulicans, they all believed that Jesus Christ did in fact not die at the cross for the most part, but rather was made up of non-gross matter, and therefore he couldn't die at the cross. Heresy, 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 burn, burn, burn. Right. If you want to show that Jesus was a real human being, just like every other human being, not just somebody who appeared like a hologram, then what better way to think of him being born in a normal, humble human way than to celebrate his birth, Nissenbaum said. You have to, bring him to the people. He has to become relevant to the people. Give him a birthday. Give him a birthday.
Yeah.
Understood, my friend. Midwinter festivals, with their pagan roots, I'm going to say this again, and I know that a lot of Christians out there are going to hate hearing it, and they go, "Oh, you're wrong, Mickey." No, I'm really not. I've done my research. I'm really not wrong. But of course, you can believe whatever you like. It's okay. Now, Midwinter festivals with their pagan roots were already widely celebrated, Nissenbaum said. And the date had a pleasing philosophical fit with festivals celebrating the lengthening days after the winter solstice, which fell on December 21 that year. Oh, how wonderfully acted Providence, that on that day on which that son was born, Christ should be born also, one Cyprian text read. Oh, what wonderful providence, David.
Yeah, look, but unfortunately, the Puritans hated the holiday. But if the Catholic Church gradually came to embrace Christmas, the Protestant Reformation gave the holiday a good knock on the chin. In the 16th century, Christmas became a casualty of this church schism, with reformist-minded Protestants considering it little better than paganism. Nissenbaum said this likely had something to do with the ruckus, rowdy and sometimes bawdy fashion in which Christmas was celebrated, he added. Bawdy. He hasn't been in the 21st century. In England, under Oliver Cromwell, where you can decorate your house from October, Christmas and other Satan's days were banned. And in New England, it was illegal to celebrate Christmas for about 25 years in the 1600s. Nissenbaum said, "Forget people saying happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas," he said. "If you want to look at the real Christmas, the war on Christmas, you've got to look at the Puritans," he said. "They banned it."
Correct. And I need to say this again. Christmas has exactly nothing to do with Christianity. Oh, man, so much hate. Christmas has exactly nothing to do with Christianity.
There goes your inbox.
I don't care. It's a thing. I mean, I love the holiday. I love it. But I love it for the memories I've had as a child. I even went to church with my grandmother, on that particular, day for the Mass. It's usually midnight Mass in Germany. So as you go to church at midnight. It's beautiful. It really is beautiful. As a child, it's fantastic. The lights and it was winter in Germany, snow, It's a really nice memory that I have, and I don't want to let it go. I want to keep celebrating Christmas. Absolutely. I have no problem with it whatsoever, but I need for people, this is my shortcoming, Dave, my failure as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I need people to understand what they're doing. I really do. It's a big failing I have. I really have. There's something wrong with me where I believe that people should know what they're doing, and they should know what they're saying when they're talking about something. That's my no. I'm serious. I'm trying to apologize to the world here, right?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm feeling your sincerity. I really do.
Right? And it is. I wish I didn't have it. But if somebody says something, please, I beg you, for the love of whoever you believe in, just do your research. There's nothing wrong with celebrating Christmas and having a Christian connotation, right? But you have to understand you're not actually celebrating the birth of Christ, because we have no idea when he was born. And if you believe some of the early Christians, the Gnostics specifically, he was never born, actually, right? He was never really born because he was never made of the same stuff that we are made up of, right? And which, of course, then led to the massive heresy that he couldn't have possibly died at the cross, because he wasn't made of stuff that could die at the cross,
there you go.
right? So... But that's the thing. I'm sorry, but this is what it is, right? This is what we're talking about here. I mean, that's why people were killed. That's why they wiped out the Cathars, right? I mean, entire cities in France were depopulated. Entire cities. tens of thousands of people slaughtered because one person believed this and the other believed that. Do you know there's this beautiful story, Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, and he goes to this country. Well, I guess it's not. Yeah, it's a country. It's where the Lilliputans fight the I can't remember the other. Blefusco. That's it. Blefusco and Lilliput, and they had war. They had war because these are the little people. When it goes to the tiny little people, Blefusco and Lilliput, they're fighting over which way or which end an egg should be opened. Should it be opened at the bottom or should it be opened at the tip? Right? Because that's clearly very important. So it's like arguing how many angels can dance on the head of a needle, of a pin. It's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant for everybody. Okay, but people make it relevant. People make it a problem, and that's why people have to burn at the stake. If they say, "Oh no, he was never really like a real, a gross meta being. He was a subtle meta being," which means he couldn't have done it. Of course, burn him. Right? No, you got to follow the holy gourd. No, follow the holy sandal. No, the gourd, the sandal, the gourd, the sandal, and
the gourd. It's all about the gourd.
The gourd. By the way, the Muslims are no better, right? Follow the uncle. No, follow the nephew. No, the uncle. Shia, Sunni, Shia, Sunni, Shia, Sunni. Uncle, nephew, uncle, nephew. Okay, I mean, look, it goes on and on. It goes on and on. It goes on and on. I have no time for any of this. Gifts are new. Gifts are a new tradition, and controversial, in fact, right? While gift giving may seem inextricably linked to Christmas, it used to be that people looked forward to opening presents on New Year's Day, not Christmas Day, New Year's Day, right? So the 1st of January. They were a blessing for people to make them feel good as the year ends, Hutton said. It makes sense, right? The year's coming to an end. Let's give each other gifts and celebrate the year that has passed. In fact, the time machine, Dave, the time machine was set on, the story was set on January 1900. December 31st, 1899. That's when his voyage, the first voyage of the time machine, took place in the novel. Anyway, so there was quite a bit of significance attached to the year's end. It wasn't until the Victorian era of the 1800s that gift giving shifted to Christmas. Apparently, according to the Royal Collection, Queen Victoria's children got Christmas Eve gifts in 1850, including a sword and armor. In 1841, Victoria gave her husband, Prince Albert, a miniature portrait of her as a 7-year-old. In 1859, she gave him a book of poetry by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Not a bad poet, if you have the time. All of this gift giving, along with the secular embrace of Christmas, now has some religious groups steamed, Nissenbaum said. The consumerism of Christmas shopping seems, to some, to contradict the religious goal of celebrating Jesus Christ's birth. There's a slap. What? The consumerism is what? Contradicting the religious goal of Jesus Christ's birthday? What a shock. In some ways, Nissenbaum said, excessive spending is the modern equivalent of the revelry and drunkenness, the bawdiness, if you will, that made the Puritans frown. There's always been a push and a pull, and it's taken different forms, Nissenbaum continues. It might have been alcohol then, and now it's the glittering toys. So this is what happens. If you had been born 200 years ago, in the early 19th century, you would not have celebrated Christmas the way we celebrate it today. You just wouldn't. Would you have celebrated something? Yeah, sure. But the gift giving that would have happened for you in the new year on January 1st, right? That's a thing. Dave, the next bit is really interesting. It's the introduction of the feast.
Oh, who doesn't like a good feast?
Oh, I like to feast, my friend. Lobster stuffed with tacos.
I don't even know what that would be called. I know it's not a turducken, and I've seen, there's a pie inside a cake thing now.
Yes, it's a pikin or something.
Yeah, that's right. That looks pretty good.
Actually, that looks good.
It does.
It's a cherry pie, like a proper cherry pie with a crust that's inside a cake. I mean, What could go wrong?
You'd have to ice that, which I think would have to be a chocolate cake. You'd have to ice it with some really nice icing. That'd be nice. If it was savory, though, if it's the savory pie, then I'm not sure how I'd deal with the cheese and the bacon. Anyway, look, as Christmas was unknown to the early Christian writers, it must have been introduced some time after 300, talking about the year 300. Irenaeus and Tertullian omit it from their lists of feasts. In 245, Origen of Alexandria, writing about Leviticus, and this is in chapter 12, verses 1 through 8, commented that Scripture mentions only sinners as celebrating their birthdays, namely Pharaoh, and then had his chief baker hanged, and Herod, who had John the Baptist beheaded, and mentioned saints as cursing the day of their birth, namely Jeremiah and Job. Mm-hmm. In 303, Arnobius still ridiculed the idea of celebrating the birthdays of gods, a passage cited as evidence that Arnobius was unaware of any nativity celebration. But since Christmas does not celebrate Christ's birth as God, but as man, this does not necessarily show that Christmas was not a feast at this time. I hope you're with me. The earliest known Christmas celebration is recorded in a 4th century manuscript compiled in Rome. This manuscript is thought to record a celebration that occurred in 336. It was prepared privately for Furius Dionysius Philocalus.
What a cool name. Furius Dionysius Philocalus. Yes, that's me. Say that every day. Ha!
I like. Maybe I can change my first name to Furious. That'd be cool.
Furious Dave. I love it.
Yeah,
done.
Furious
Sold.
Dave. There you go. Done. A Roman aristocrat in 354. The reference in question states the 8th Carl Ian Natus Christus in Bethlehem, Ejue, translated as 8 Calends, January birth of Christ in Bethlehem, Judea. This reference is in a section of the manuscript that was copied from an earlier source material. The document also contains the earliest known reference to the Feast of Sol Invictus, which we mentioned last week. The fact that Donatists of North Africa celebrated Christmas suggests that the feast was established by the time the church was created in 311. See, so they're narrowing it down to about the 300s, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
In Eastern Christianity, the birth of Jesus was celebrated in connection with the Epiphany on January 6th, which, however, emphasized celebration of the baptism of Jesus. Christmas was promoted in the Christian East as part of the revival of the Nicene. Christianity followed the death of the pro-Arian emperor Valens at the Battle of Adrianople in 378. And the last part of this is the feast was introduced in Constantinople in 379 in Antioch. The holy hand grenade of Antioch by John Chrysostom towards the end of the 4th century, probably in 388, and in Alexandria only in the following century. The feast disappeared after Gregory of Nazianzus, that'll have to do, resigned as bishop in 381, although it was reintroduced by John Chrysostom in about 400. Even in the West, January 6th celebration of the Nativity of Jesus seems to have continued until about 380. So look, in a nutshell, Mackie, we'll just cover that off.
Yeah, look, that's right. So, you know what we should do? There should be a show, just us reading funny names. That should be a show. It's like, I think so. I think it's just a whole show. I'll find the funniest names we can find, like Furious Dionysus Philocalcus, or what was it here? The other one? Oh yeah, Gregory of Nazianzus. These are fantastic names. Nobody has names like that anymore, man. Really, Tertullian, right?
But today we have, names that sound like the normal name, but are spelt so wildly that child for the rest of their life has to spell their name to everybody.
I know, right?
It's Brian, but it has 3 silent H's.
And an invisible Q. What? But Brian with an invisible Q and 3 silent H's. Yeah. Where do you put the Q? I can't tell you. I gotta kill you. What? I know, right? What is up with it? Why? I mean, okay, look, hey, I'm for creativity. Creativity is good, right? But don't make the child an outcast. Come on, seriously. What are you doing here? What are you doing? If it's a cultural thing, I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable. I mean, some funny names coming from different cultures. I get it, right? It's only funny in English. It's not funny in that culture, but it's funny in English. But go on.
I have to say that joke comes from the movie Man with Two Brains, and he's talking in the rowing boat. He's talking to a brain in a jar, and her name was Mehelmahay. And he said, "Oh, that's interesting. How do you spell it?" And she says, "It's just like it sounds, with an additional 3 silent H's."
Well, thank you for that, I say.
Oh.
But this is the thing, though, right? But if you are a native English person, an Anglo-Saxon of some description, whatever, like from the Western world, you don't call your child Brian with an invisible Q, all right? And a silent X.
Even John, right? John has 2 spellings that I know about, right?
Dude,
so there's Jon or John, and I just think that it shouldn't have that. Like the poor children today. I mean, there was one girl whose parents named her. They named her the hula dancer from Hawaii or something. Chula, the hula dancer from Hawaii, and the parents were told in a courtroom by the judge that you're not fit to be parents if that's what you named her. And the daughter gets to choose her own name. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. As soon as she's old enough, which is like by the age of 2, she'll have outgrown her parents of maturity. That's a fact, right? I mean, come on, people. What? Seriously. So, look, all I want to say to that is be sensible, okay? Well, I mean, just, you know what? Call your child Pepsi. Have it tattooed across their forehead. That's a lifetime contract with Pepsi. Sweet, they're set for life. This is the Pepsi baby. Hurrah! Right? No, it's not a good thing.
That's actually being done.
I know it has been done. That's what? See? That's who we are now.
Go to the competitor. That's what I say.
Yeah, let's do the Coca-Cola, baby. But when you do that, do it in the old style Coca-Cola, like the swirly, same with PepsiCo, like the old style, if you do the tattoo, right? Because that's cool in a way, right? So if you want to get the tattoo, don't have it in block letters, have it in the swirly writing, right? From the olden days.
No one will be able to read it in the next 10 years. Because they cut out cursive. They cut out cursive writing at school.
Stop cursing. What? No, it's not that. It's not that. It's not cursing, you idiot. Oh,
right. I'm writing handwriting, right? Mm-hmm. And my daughter goes, "Oh, we're not allowed to do that anymore." So why not? Yeah, they banned it now. You can't do it.
Computers cannot read it. The great singularity. Computers cannot stop talking. Computers cannot read it. But yes. Look, it's we are becoming less capable as human beings. We are actually, our educational system truly has now gone to the end of producing little cogs that will fit well into the machinery of what we call
He said cogs, by the way, COGS.
Yes, little mechanical parts, not to be confused with other parts.
Yes.
And that's what we do. We've decided that's what we need in the world, right? so let's do away with all the creative thinking. And see, the thing is this: cursive writing, it sort of encourages the flow on the stream of consciousness as you write, whereas other like block letter writing encourages like bullet points, in a way. I know because I do. That's actually psychologically that if you think about it, that's actually true. Every great writer, even after the invention of the typewriter, still wrote in longhand, in cursive writing. Hemingway, and then even writers today, they write on legal pads or whatever they write on, but it's handwritten. A lot of writers still write by hand in cursive. Enough ranting on that subject. Santa Claus.
Saint Nick.
Saint Nick, that's him. Saint Nicholas, Kris Kringle, Father Christmas, simply Santa, for his friends, is a legendary figure that originated in Western Christian culture, or did he? Who is said to bring gifts to the homes of well-behaved children, naughty or nice, right? Naughty or nice, on Christmas Eve, December 24th, and the early morning hours of Christmas Day, December 25th. So Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, those are the times that we traditionally get to open our presents. I think for us it's Christmas Day. Christmas Eve we spend together with the family in a small gathering, eating light food, and then in preparation. Yeah, that's right. Cola potatoes for the naughty kids in Germany. That's exactly right. We celebrate. We prepare our collective stomachs for the celebratory feast the following day. Yeah, I know, right? Lobster with tacos. The modern Santa Claus grew out of traditions surrounding the historical Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas. That's actually a person. Okay, he was a 4th century Greek bishop and gift giver of Myra. Myra is where he lived. Now, I want to spend a couple of moments on Saint Nicholas. So I learned all about St. Nicholas in Germany because we do these things in Germany. We learn about things. And St. Nicholas Day is actually celebrated on December 6th. So what you do is, as a child, you put your shoe out, of your room or the door in front of the house, and then your parents, but you think St. Nick does it, St. Nicholas comes and fills it with goodies. Nuts and chocolates and little toys maybe. So, you get as big a boot as possible. I'll take my father's snow boots. Thank you very much. Fill it up. And overnight, it's filled up with goodies. That's December 6th. Okay, so that's St. Nicholas Day in Germany. You also have the British figure of Father Christmas, excuse me, and the Dutch figure of Sinterklaas. Also based on Sinterklaas, exactly. Also based on St. Nicholas. Some maintain Santa Claus also absorbed elements of the Germanic god Wodan, or Odin, as you call him. And our day, Wednesday, is still named after Odin, I believe in it, who was associated with the pagan midwinter event of Yule and led the Wild Hunt, which was a ghostly procession through the sky. It's just very quickly, in Germany, we also have something called the Christkind, which means the Christ child. So there's Santa Claus. Yeah, there's Santa Claus or St. Nicholas, but and then there's Weihnachtsmann, which is Christmas man. Literally translated means a Christmas man. And then you also have the Christ child. And all of those conspire to give you gifts at various times of the year. So you've got St. Nicholas, December 6th, that's right. Der Weihnachtsmann, or Christmas man, who comes usually on the 24th. And then das Christkind, either in collusion with Weihnachtsmann or Christmas man, or the following day, right? So on the 25th, we used to wait for the Christkind to bring us our presents. Not Santa Claus, but the Christ child. Now, Santa Claus is generally depicted as a portly, jolly, white-bearded man. Anglo-Saxon, yes, that's right. Sometimes with spectacles, wearing a red coat with white fur collar and cuffs, white fur cuffed red trousers, a red hat with white fur and black leather belt, and boots, who carries a bag full of gifts for children. This image became popular in the United States and Canada in the 19th century due to the significant influence of the 1823 poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, and of caricaturist and political cartoonist Thomas Nast. This image has been maintained and reinforced through song, radio, television, children's books, films, and advertising. Santa Claus is said to make a list or lists of children throughout the world, categorizing them according to their behavior, good and bad, or naughty and nice, and to deliver presents, including toys and candy, to all the well-behaved children in the world, and coal, or potatoes, cold potatoes, to the misbehaved or naughty children on the single night of Christmas Eve. So he's a busy fella. He accomplished this feat with the aid of his elves, who make the toys in his workshop at the North Pole, and his flying reindeer, who pull his sleigh. He's commonly portrayed as living at the North Pole with, recently, Mrs. Claus, and often laughing in a way that sounds like, ho, ho, ho. Dave.
I told you it was Santa Claus in another life, or another universe. In Australia, if we put our shoes outside in summertime, a funnel web will crawl inside it and make it its house.
Then you will die.
Reaching in, oh, I wonder what I've got from Saint Nick.
Oh, it's
and the next thing is vomiting and profuse sweating, and then you dehydrate and your brain dies. So yeah, that's good. It's good. Right. So St. Nicholas to Santa, the surprising origins of Mr. Claus. Santa's evolution that includes a round-the-world ride that rivals the ones he does on Christmas Eve. The modern American Santa was born in the Mediterranean, evolved across Northern Europe, and finally assumed his now familiar form on the shores of the New World. Who is this Santa, and how did he get here? You'll know in a moment. The face must be Saint Nick. Images of St. Nicholas, Santa's original ancestor, vary considerably, but none of them look much like the red-cheeked, white-bearded old man we see every day, everywhere today. One of the most compelling views we have of the real St. Nick was created by not by ancient artists, but by using modern forensic facial reconstruction. The remains of the Greek bishop, as Meki has already noted, who lived in the 3rd and 4th centuries, are housed in Bari in Italy. When the crypt at the Basilica San Nicola was repaired in the 1950s, the saint's skull and bones were documented with X-ray photos and thousands of detailed measurements. Caroline Wilkinson, a facial anthropologist at the University of Manchester in England, used this data and modern software simulations to create a modern reconstruction of the long-dead man. Wilkinson put a human face on Santa's original namesake, one with a badly broken nose, possibly suffered during the persecution of Christians under the Roman Emperor Diocletian. There you go. So who was St. Nick? Find out how old St. Nick became a beloved figure all over the world and how his image has changed over the years. Much of her work is necessarily subject to interpretation. The size and shape of the facial muscles that once covered Nicholas's skull had to be inferred, and the shape of that skull itself was recreated from two-dimensional data. Digital artists added details that were based on best guesses, including the olive-toned skin most common amongst Greek Mediterraneans like Nicholas, brown eyes, and the grey hair of a 60-year-old man. And there's a quote, it says, "We are bound to have lost some of the level of detail you would get by working from photographs, but we believe this is the closest we are ever going to get to him," Wilkinson said in a BBC Two feature film on the project entitled The Real Face of Santa. Meki.
I think that's really cool. I think that's a really cool thing to do, right? I mean, this is the actual Bishop Nicholas that lived, all these almost 1,500 years ago, And then now you get to see what he actually looked like. I mean, I think that's really cool. I think that.
But it looks nothing like the caricature.
No, there's a shock. No? What? Yeah, because Jesus was blonde and blue-eyed, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Not. No, the hate. No, the hate. Now, from St. Nicholas to Santa. I mean, this St. Nicholas being a historical actual figure, the bishop, as we said. How did this then turn into Santa Claus? How did he become a North Pole dwelling bringer of Christmas gifts? Yeah, the original saint was a Greek born 280 years after Christ, who became the bishop of Myra, as we said, which was a small Roman town in what is now modern Turkey. Nicholas was neither fat nor jolly, but developed a reputation as a fiery, wiry, and defiant defender of church doctrine during the Great Persecution, when Bibles were put to the torch and priests made to renounce Christianity or face execution. Nicholas defied these edicts and spent years in prison before Constantine brought Christianity to prominence in his empire. So that's the Eastern Roman Christianity, okay, Eastern Roman religion. Okay. Sorry, no, I lied to you. That's the Western Rome. Anyway, Nicholas's fame lived long after his death on December 6th of some unknown year in the mid-4th century. Hence, on December 6th, we in Germany celebrate St. Nicholas Day, because that's when he died, right? On December 6th. We don't know when, sometime in the 4th century, but it was December 6th. Because he was associated with many miracles, and reverence for him continues to this day, independent of his Santa Claus connection, which is true. Nicholas rose to prominence among the saints because he was the patron of so many groups, ranging from sailors to entire nations. By about 1200, explained University of Manitoba historian Jerry Bowler, he became known as a patron of children and magical gift bringer because of two great stories from his life. In the better-known tale, 3 young girls are saved from a life of prostitution when young Bishop Nicholas secretly delivers 3 bags of gold to their indebted father, which can be used for their dowries. So back in the day, I guess similar today, unless the girl had something to bring into the marriage with the guy, nobody would marry her. So that's a dowry, right? So it's like the bride gift. The other story is not so well known now, but was enormously well known in the Middle Ages, Bowler said. Nicholas entered an inn whose keeper had just murdered 3 boys and pickled their dismembered bodies in basement barrels. The bishop not only sensed the crime, but resurrected the victims as well. That's one of the things that made him the patron saint of children. So don't eat glass, don't kill people, don't pickle children. These are the 3. If those are the 3 things you take away from the show today, I'm a happy person. For several hundred years, circa 1200 to 1500, St. Nicholas was the unchallenged bringer of gifts and the toast of celebrations centered around his day, December 6th. The strict saint took on some aspects of earlier European deities, like the Roman Saturn or the Norse Odin, who appeared as white-bearded men and had magical powers like flight. He also ensured that kids towed the line by saying their prayers and practicing good behavior. But after the Protestant Reformation, saints like Nicholas fell out of favor across much of Northern Europe. That was problematic, Bowler said. You still love your kids, but now who's going to bring them the gifts? Bowler said that in many cases the job fell to baby Jesus, the Christ child, and the date was moved to Christmas rather than December 6th. But the infant's carrying capacity is very limited, and he's not very scary either, Bowler said. So the Christ child, interesting, it's Christkind. I'm telling you, this is what it is. The Christ child was often given a scary helper to do the lugging of presents and the threatening of kids. That doesn't seem appropriate coming from the baby Jesus. Some of these scary Germanic figures, again, were based on Nicholas. No longer as a saint, but as a threatening sidekick, like Ruklaus, which means rough Nicholas, Aschenklaus, ashy Nicholas, and Pelznickel, which means furry Nicholas. These figures expected good behavior or forced children to suffer consequences like whippings or kidnappings. Dissimilar as they seem to the jolly men in red, these colorful characters would later figure in the development of Santa himself, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't see where you stopped.
Germanic paganism, Woden, and Christianization.
Oh, wow, you got all the way through that. Prior to Christianization, the Germanic peoples, including the English, celebrated a midwinter event called Yule. That's Becky's. I would say Yule, because I don't know better. The Old English Geola, or Giuli. With the Christianization of Germanic Europe, numerous traditions were absorbed from Yuletide celebrations into modern Christmas. During this period, supernatural and ghostly occurrences were said to increase in frequency, such as the wild hunt, as Mekki mentioned earlier, a ghostly procession through the sky. The leader of the wild hunt is frequently attested as the god Wodan, or in Norse, Odin, bearing, among many names, the names Jolnir, meaning Yule figure, and Langbaror, meaning long beard in Old Norse. Woden's role during the Yuletide period has been theorized as having influenced concepts of St. Nicholas in a variety of facets, including his long white beard and his grey horse for nightly rides. Compare Odin's horse, or Sleipnir, or his reindeer in North American traditions. Folklorist Margaret Baker maintains that the appearance of Santa Claus, or Father Christmas, whose day is the 25th of December, owes much to Odin, the old, blue-hooded, cloaked, white-bearded gift-bringer of the North, who rode the midwinter sky on his 8-footed steed, Sleipnir, visiting his people with gifts. Odin transformed into Father Christmas. Then Santa Claus prospered with St. Nicholas and the Christ child, becoming a leading player on the Christmas stage. In Finland, they still, oh boy, this is going to be fun. In Finland, they still use Joulupki for the Christmas goat, or the Christmas goat.
Yeah, there's a Christmas goat, man. How about that?
I like the Easter chicken.
I love the Easter chicken, huh? How good is the Easter chicken? We have a little bit of time, but let's recap, because the next section is fairly long, and it's really interesting. This is the
We've only got 3 minutes.
We won't get through it. So let's stop it here. But next week we're going to talk about St. Nicholas in America. So it's interesting, Dave. I think to look at the evolution, if you will, of the I guess of Santa Claus, right? The evolution of Santa Claus, and how it has very little to do. And I know again the hate. It has very little to do with the actual Christian faith per se. I mean, of course, now we are remembering the birth of Christ, and it doesn't really matter when it happened, just so long as it did happen. And, you know, I mean, December 25th is as good as any other day. In fact, better in many ways, because, again, it is the winter solstice. You know, the shortest day of the year. Meaning, you know, after that, for 3 days, it's short, and then the sun rises relative to the horizon of the earth. And you know, I guess it's a symbol for the Christ child bringing light into the world as well. So it made sense, Dave, right? It made sense to mix those things up. I mean, you know, I don't blame people to do it. We will talk about the Saturnalia as well. Other holidays that were celebrated as the the winter solstice. You know, it's the winter festival, right? And it is a time that lends itself to homely feelings. You know, like being at home in the northern hemisphere, not so much in Australia. Having a nice fire in your hearth, and you know, like a big meal in your belly. It's a time that is made for feasting, and it's a time that is made for family togetherness. So the holiday itself, that we're celebrating, is still to this day, would have been celebrated well before Christians ever appeared on the stage. And it's a sort of comforting thing, Dave, to know that, you know, when the time machine is invented, when will it be? I don't care. Any time is fine. Do we care when? No, we don't. then we can travel back and through time and still celebrate some semblance of Christmas, minus Santa Claus, I guess. But there'll be gift giving, there'll be feasts, there'll be songs of joy, I'm sure. Well, what do you make of it, though, Dave? I mean, has it since we've done this? I mean, this is not the first time we've done it. We did this about 6 years ago, roughly. So about 5-6 years ago. Has your outlook on Christmas changed? I mean, knowing all of this, I think is empowering. But how do you feel?
Look, it changes my perspective only in that I know this is really for children. The Christmas we have today is really about gift giving and being nice, and not what you receive. That's the focus. And if we all focus on that as the outcome, then I don't think it matters for
music
what reason we're celebrating.
Music.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, we'll see you for show 351 next week. And take care. Next week, we hope not to have any of these Skype dramas. Good luck with that. And stay tuned for a radio roundtable with Jer Bear. That's good.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.